When my father collapsed during a heart attack, we called an ambulance, but it never made it through. Our HOA's self-declared queen, Karen, had parked her massive SUV right in front of the only access gate, refusing to move because it wasn't her emergency. My dad almost died that day. But she didn't know I was an architect, and my revenge would be loud, legal, and impossible to ignore. The blocked gate. The sun was blazing that afternoon when my phone rang. It was my younger sister, screaming. Dad collapsed. He's not breathing. I was only 5 minutes away, but by the time I reached the house, the situation was worse. My mother was crying, kneeling beside my dad, who lay pale and gasping on the living room floor. I immediately called 911. The dispatcher assured me that an ambulance was nearby. But 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Still no sirens. No paramedics. No life-saving gear. I sprinted out of the house and down the street, only to find the problem. A white Cadillac Escalade, Karen's SUV, was parked sideways across the only main access gate to our cul-de-sac. It blocked everything. 2 EMTs stood outside their vehicle, shouting and pleading. We need to get through. There's a cardiac arrest call. Karen stood there, sunglasses on, arms folded, sipping a cold drink. Use the other gate, she said smugly. There is no other gate, one of the paramedics snapped. This is the only wide enough access for emergency vehicles. Karen shrugged. Not my problem. My blood boiled. I yelled, move your damn car, Karen. She looked at me and smirked. You're the guy with the noisy tools and ugly backyard chairs, right? Yeah, maybe if you respected the neighborhood aesthetics, I'd consider it. The paramedics had to grab their gear and run down the block on foot. By the time they reached my dad, another 10 minutes had passed. Those minutes could have killed him. Who she was. Karen wasn't just a bad neighbor, she was a control freak with an ego problem. She wasn't elected to any position, but she acted like she owned the HOA. She made up her own rules. Harassed teenagers for skateboarding. Called tow trucks on cars parked slightly crooked. And worst of all, she had deep connections with half the HOA board. No one held her accountable. Even after the ambulance blocking incident, all she got was a warning letter, and even that took me 3 formal complaints to get issued. Meanwhile, my dad was recovering slowly from what the doctors called a near-fatal delay. Had they arrived 5 minutes later, we could have lost him. I was furious. But I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I didn't even confront her. I started drawing. You see, I'm an architect. I design medical campuses, modular hospitals, and mobile trauma units for the state. I know every zoning loophole, every structural trick, and exactly how to get approvals fast. So I contacted my friend Dr. Ellis, who ran a private medical firm. He'd been talking for years about building a small airlift pad for rapid medevac services in suburban zones. We could build a helipad, I said to him, in my backyard. He paused. Seriously? Yes. Right next to her house. And I'll fund the whole thing. He laughed, then went silent. You're insane. I'm prepared, I corrected. The plan in motion. The next day, I submitted a zoning permit, under a special clause that allowed for emergency medical landing sites within residential zones if the nearest hospital was more than 20 minutes away by road. Ours was 23. My application was airtight. And by the end of the week, I had it approved. I even used Karen's previous complaints about ambulance delays. Yes, she'd whined before when others had medical issues, as supporting documentation. When the first equipment trucks rolled in, she came stomping over. What is all this? Why is there construction behind my garden wall? I smiled. It's a helipad. She blinked. A what? For air ambulances. Because, well, you know, ground access isn't always available. She turned red. You can't do that. I can. I already did. Want to see the permit? She stormed off. The next day, she tried to get the HOA to block the construction. Too late, it was a medical initiative, approved by the city council. No HOA veto possible. Revenge by Blueprint Construction moved quickly. Karen tried everything: threats, complaints, even legal intimidation. But the city ordinance was clear: any private property within a healthcare short zone may accommodate emergency air support infrastructure, with minimal decibel regulation during critical hours. Translation? We could legally land a helicopter next to her garden anytime between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. if it involved emergency services. By the time the helipad platform was poured, and the solar lighting installed, she stopped talking to us altogether. I noticed her flowers wilted. Her dog barked constantly. And she kept her blinds closed all day. Still, she couldn't stop it. We named the site H17, and within days, it was registered as a functioning medevac point. Dr. Ellis's medical team came to inspect the site and ran a test drill, just to confirm we had clearance. That test drill happened to be on a Sunday morning. At 8 a.m. The first landing, Karen was watering her lawn in a silk robe, pretending not to notice the chopper coming in low. The blades stirred her garden into chaos, flower petals everywhere, her patio umbrella nearly lifting off the ground. Her coffee mug shattered when it hit the stones. And her hair? A bird's nest by the time the paramedics stepped out for inspection. She ran over, screaming over the rotor blades. You can't do this to me. This is harassment. The crew ignored her completely. I watched from my porch, sipping tea, waving politely. She flipped me off. Later that afternoon, she posted a furious rant on the neighborhood app: helipads have no place in residential communities. This is an invasion of privacy. The HOA must act. Unfortunately for her, the HOA had no authority over the project. In fact, 2 other residents had already emailed me, thanking me for making the area safer. One even asked if we'd accept airlift patients from her diabetic husband's facility 2 blocks away. Karen wasn't just beaten. She was becoming irrelevant. The final blow: 3 weeks later, it happened. A teenage boy had a severe biking accident 2 streets over. The ambulance was 18 minutes out. But we were ready. The chopper landed on our pad within 5 minutes. Medics rushed him to a trauma center. Doctors later confirmed, if they'd waited for the ambulance, the kid would have lost his leg. That story hit the local paper. The headline? Private helipad saves teen's life in suburban miracle. Karen's house was visible in the background photo, her curtains fluttering behind the window like a ghost. People began joking online that Karen's bad karma brought the chopper. Ironically, the HOA, the same group Karen once bullied, now praised me publicly at the next meeting. She wanted to be the queen of this block, one neighbor whispered to me later, but now everyone sees who really made a difference. Epilogue: peace. Finally, since then, Karen's presence has faded like cheap wallpaper. She filed 3 noise complaints. All dismissed. She threatened to sue. The city laughed her out. Last week, I saw a realtor's sign go up on her lawn. It simply read, "For sale, motivated seller. Buyer must tolerate helicopters." And you know what? I do still hear the helicopter from time to time. But every time I hear that thump of the blades, I smile, not just because it reminds me of justice served, but because it reminds me that no one blocks help for someone in need, not in my neighborhood. Loudspeaker, thanks for reading. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more real-life drama and brilliant revenge stories. New episodes drop every week, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.